Limerick are once again All-Ireland hurling champions. 3 out of 4. They won an absolute stormer against Cork today. A half-time score, 3-18, that would have won any All-Ireland final since 1972, we saw on Twitter. And just an unbelievable display. Highest ever score in an All-Ireland final as well. I'm Mick McCarthy, and you're watching GAA Embedded here on balls.ie. And we're delighted to be joined from Croke Park by Shane McGrath, our regular analyst, straight after the game. Shane, we just finished commentary with Cork Lodge on RT Radio. I don't know really what to say about that, even though we've had a long time to digest it now because it was kind of over at half time. The question going around Twitter was that the best half hurling you've ever seen from one team?
Oh, it's up there, Mick, isn't it? Like, I mean, scoring-wise, as you said, as I was saying to someone earlier on Twitter, can be terrible for some things, but it's great for the old stats, and someone always has one. And someone had it up right that their half-time score would have won 109 out of the 139 finals that have been played. And that's crazy. Like, I mean, here now looking, we all day throwing numbers at you and everything. I mean, 332, 328 from play, 1, 2, 3, trying to count up all the scores, 11, 12 different scores.
10 scores
stuff, like, you know, it's just the shots. Like, I mean, in the first quarter they took 11 shots and they scored 10 times, right? Half time they scored 27 shots and they'd score 21 of them by half time. Okay, like, where does like if you talk about like where do you improve on this? You know, and I suppose wides count 6, 10. 17 wides, and that is frightening. But they had 16, 17 wides, and they scored 332.
Yeah,
I don't know what the rest of us are going to do, Mick. Like, I mean, I was talking to Jackie Hurley there, and she was out in Tokyo, and like, do we have to take up skateboarding? I mean, what do we do? Like, I mean, I'm looking like there's none of them. Like, I'm looking at the team here, right? And bar maybe Graham Mulcahy, like, there's none of them really going to step away. You know, can't see John Kiely stepping away. Paul Kinnerk, great backroom team. In JP McManus, they have a wonderful GAA person who's willing to do what it takes for Limerick. I just think, I don't know, it's worrying for the rest of us. Look, I think they had a lot of time in the ball, Mick. You've probably seen that as well, maybe watching at home. You know, they were at their ease for a lot of the game. Cork didn't lay loving them for a lot of it. And, you know, even the first goal, there was a real nervousness about Cork even in the warm-up here. And it's hindsight's great, it's easy to talk. The Limerick warm-up was, you know, you're watching it, everything was sticking, you know, experience. Cork warm-up, 2-3 touches, just a little bit of nervousness. And even look at the first goal they got. Luke Meade went to give the kind of back flick, like we were associated with Keane Lynch, Joe Canning, these guys. Didn't work out. Lynch picked it up and Higgard, and you know, they take it on and bury it. But even Galan's goal, no one near him. And it was a real kind of challenge match feel to the last quarter here, you know. So yeah, just an awesome team, an awesome team.
Yeah, so the second half almost can be written off, but the first half, as you say, there was kind of it's interesting to see what Cork's part in that was, because watching on TV, you're thinking at the first minutes, you're thinking Cork are playing well here and it's a good game, and Limerick answered them. But then you think back about it and you think of the scores you're mentioning, and they did seem like there was an awful lot of space there. And I suppose maybe it was nervousness, and maybe they didn't show up in the day. Maybe, you know, the occasion got to a young team, and that's understandable too. But what was, from watching it and commentating on it, Cork's game plan, I suppose? That's what's kind of hard to figure out, because go for it, absolutely, and they attacked well in the early stages. But when you leave, like, that ball went down to Seamus Flanagan for the into the corner, a normal enough ball, and you're shouting at the TV, "This is a goal," because you can see how much space Galan is in, and that seems criminal these days. Like.
So for looking at it from where we were, right, you know, and obviously a great viewpoint here in the middle of the Upper Hogan, Cork did want to push up and they wanted to press on Limerick, you know, and what that allowed in was a lot of space in front of their full back line, because, you know, they were pushing up. You know, Tim O'Mahony was pushing, Owen Cadigan was marking Tom Morrissey, he was pushing, and Mark Coleman was probably pushing a bit more. And even when he was sitting, because there wasn't much pressure being put on the Limerick lads from the back, they had time to look up and they were able to pick the space either side. But as you said, the quality ball that was going into them, like, I mean, their inside forward line. I mean, Peter Casey, 5 points scored before he went off. I mean, that's enough for man of the match most days, right? Yeah. You know, Flanagan had his point from play. But Galan's goal, like, Flanagan, he looked up. He had time to look up. Galan is on his own in the D here at the Devon end. And look, a great finish now. So, like, you know, great finish from where he did. You know, bounced the ball, did everything right. Top finisher's goal. But the amount of time they had in the ball, and then when Cork got the ball, the swarming that they did. We're still announcing stuff here, you know, trying to get all Limerick lads away. But, you know, the swarming that they did. And like, that was one word that I often heard Paul Kinnerk in the matches last year and some of the matches this year when the crowd wasn't there, Mick, and if you were there on duty. swarm was the word they used, and that's what they did. Every time Cork got the ball, they swarmed, and because there was that etchiness and a little bit of nervousness about Cork, when Limerick did swarm, Cork made mistakes to turn them over, and from turnovers, I believe that Limerick scored 213 turnovers alone.
Yes.
I look, they're all numbers and their stats and everything, but they have to be backed up by ferocious work rate. And I think first and foremost, their work rate is what they do. And like Garrod Hegarty turned over after he got his second goal, he did a little celebration. He did more of a celebration after turning over one of the Cork lads and win the sideline for Limerick just afterwards. That's what they're about. They're about a team, and awesome display. Probably the last time maybe we were seeing in modern day would probably be 08 Kilkenny, what they did. But they surpassed that today, scoring 332 like.
Yeah, and in here in the comments saying Shane just admitted awesome team as good as it gets. I don't think you're not admitting it.
No, I'm not admitting it, and I said it all week. I said it to you as well. I just feel
you called it.
They're a Croke Park team, and they look so comfortable playing in Croke Park, regardless of who the opposition is. And like Tom Morrissey epitomises that for me. He had an okay Munster Championship by his high standards. 5 points the last day, 3 points from play today, 320 from play from their forwards. Oh, Mickey, where are you going? Where are you going trying to compete with that? And it's because work rate, but the experience they have, they love playing up here. They love it. And Tommy Dunn often used to say that this is the big arena, and Limerick love playing in the big arena.
Joe Dooley had a great tweet, the great Joe Dooley from Offaly, who said that, I'd love to be playing in the Limerick forward line today, the amount of great balls they're getting. I think that's one of the things you can be frustrated sometimes when you look at the replays and look, they've only got a second or two to show. We actually missed a Peter Casey point, I think, in the first half when they were showing a replay. Like, that's how quick the game is now, but you're just seeing the finish. But there's so much that's going into it. And there was one time we did get to see it again, actually, because Aaron Gillam was fouled when Peter Casey got injured. There was a piece of play where Dan Morrissey caught a ball. He brilliantly did one ball, played it out. There was brilliant interplay to get the ball out. Then Lynch lays this amazing ball into Gillan. And you're just thinking, everything they do make a forward's life very easy by the standard of play and accuracy to get the ball into the forward line, don't they?
Yeah, but watch him, Mick, it'll always be the guy in the best position, the guy that's always facing forward, that kind of pocket ball, as it's referred to maybe in other sports, that, if it is Declan Hannon that's bombing forward, he will turn around to a guy in a better position, usually Diarmuid Burns or maybe Barry Nash, who are just top strikers of the ball, and they are landing it every time in that zone between the 45 and the 21, and it's one bounce into the hand. And it's Joe Dooley, no matter who you are, Jesus, anyone at all, if you're getting that quality ball and you're getting a yard or two on your man, 9 times out of 10 you're going to score it. But the movement up front is unbelievable as well. Watching Gillan here today, he stands behind him, he points left or right, he goes one way, goes the other way. Flanagan the same, Casey plays a little bit outside, and their movement is unreal. But then the ability of the guys in the best position, whether it's taking a shot or delivering the ball in, that's who's delivering the ball. And Diarmuid Burns and Barry Nash in particular, their delivery of ball into that zone, watch it every time, one bounce into the hand on a carpet here, like the way Croke Park is today. It's just a dream for an inside forward line. And you know what? I did feel sorry for Sean Donoghue today, because I know you have your role in All-Stars, and I think he was thereabouts, maybe will still be. But what could he do? What could he do when the quality ball is coming in at 40, 50 yards in front of him? Jesus, as I said before, a lad on a Honda 50 wouldn't be able to get around after the Limerick had today with the ball that was going in,
I was looking, speaking of All-Stars, that's what I'm thinking. It was the game that reminded me most of. I remember after the 08 final, I was just adamant that Kilkenny should have 15 All-Stars, because the entire season was so about them and by the time the All-Stars come around, you kind of change your mind. But I was having those thoughts again today, and you look at the performance of someone like Sean Finn, who might not have had his best season, nailed down an All-Star today. Do you know what I mean? But then players like O'Donoghue, Hegarty, Hannon, Casey, as you mentioned, Gillan, the two Morrisons, all brilliant. But I've never seen such an obvious pick for man of the match as Lynch, and when you think of how good the display was all round by Limerick, and I also think Cian Lynch scored 6 points, and that's third on the list for me in what he was doing today. It was every time he lost the ball, the harrying and winning it back and so on, and then also the calmness that he has. He set up both Hegarty goals in two very different ways. He was fouled at least 3 times, I would say, on the wing when he got it to them for the second time. The third time, just that little wait before he give that pass, so on and so forth. But just one of those displays that you're just going to remember, I think, for a long time.
Yeah.
You picked someone else, did you?
I actually did,
I knew by the look in your face.
And you won't believe it, he didn't score. and William O'Donoghue.
Well,
Like,
yeah.
he is.
I
He
did
is.
mention him in the list.
No, yeah. He is central to everything good, and I've spoken about him before as the right Keane of the team. And Keane would often not get the goals or the scores, but always did the simple things right. And I think if he went into the Limerick dressing room, and obviously they're not going to single out anyone, but one of their top leaders on the field of play is Will O'Donoghue. Like, if he had the confidence in himself maybe to take on a shot, maybe he doesn't want to do it. Maybe he wants to do it for the team, what he's doing. He could score 4 or 5 points the positions he gets in, inside 65-45 zone. But he's happy to do what he does. He works back. Maybe with 7-8 minutes to go, he tracked, and he was absolutely wrecked. His hands were on his head. 30 seconds later, he was at the other side of the field in Croke Park, getting a hook in, getting a block in, getting a flick in. And I just feel he's everything good about Limerick. Now, Cian Lynch is unbelievable. He's a magician, right? 6 points from play. But I was talking to my brother about him, and my brother would be. I respect his opinion. He was involved with Tip in the senior background. He was involved with the Tip minors this year, and he said down the Munster final, Cian Lynch is looking, in the heat of it now when things weren't going well for Limerick. One guy wanted all the puckouts, and like the good under 12 or the good under 14 or under 15 nowadays, I suppose. You say put it down top of him, he'll win it. But this is inter-county senior level, and Cian Lynch is that guy that when things aren't going well, put it down on top of Keane. I bet you he'll win it or he'll do something with it. And he did it again. He did it today. He was winning dirty ball. The ability he has to flick a ball into his hand in a ruck is absolutely ridiculous. It's nearly sick, to be watching him and watching the way he can flick it up. And he's just phenomenal. And see him here after the game. It's actually lovely after the game, Nick, to be here and see a lot of Limerick guys with their kids. And see Paul Kinnock and I see Barry Hennessy. I see Nicky Quaid. And it's lovely to see that, hurling is so important, but that life, and that's who you're doing it for, your family and your friends. And I suppose one of the perks of maybe not if the place being full was they got a lot of time with their family and friends after the game. Lovely to see Cian Lynch with his mum running down, and they're just, they are phenomenal. As I said, they're Tom Morrissey and Gerard Hegarty scored 12 points from play in last year's All-Ireland final, and this year they scored 2-5 from play, so they're 1 point off it. Cian Lynch chipped in with 6 points, so 2-11 from play from your half-forward line. It's phenomenal stuff. But look, I suppose there's no adjectives left to describe them, only as their serious team. They don't look to be going anywhere. Their management team don't look to be going anywhere, and the rest of us are seriously playing catch up.
Yeah, well, I suppose that you don't want to not celebrate a brilliant performance, because I thought it was, even though it wasn't a contest, it was one to enjoy. It did, again, reminded me of that Kilkenny 08 game. You said, this is a performance we can enjoy for its own thing. But the next question has to be then, just 10 minutes into the conversation, where's the challenge going to come from? Because it feels like the age profile you mentioned already is very, very young and still on this Limerick team. You have to keep the motivation up. Everything looks good there. So I look at the thing as I think at the moment Limerick have the best hurlers. They're bigger than everybody else. I would say they're fast, and conditioning is probably, their speed and conditioning kind of mixed together is as good, if not better, than everybody else. And they seem to have the best game plan and the best coaching. All of that stuff isn't catchable in 1 year. You know what I mean? You can bring through a few good hurlers, but you can't grow them. You can, bring on a great coach, but he's only going to be able to bring on so much. It seems to me that it's only Limerick can beat Limerick over the next 2 or 3 years from what we've seen throughout this championship. Now, we've convinced ourselves before games that maybe, so this is how you might be able to challenge them. This is how you might be, but the evidence of our eyes, they seem unbeatable, other than maybe that half against Tip in the Munster final.
Yeah, and I was looking at it there, doing a bit before the week, as I was saying to you, they have this the quarter pounder, I think they call it. The way they, not the burger now, not with the cheese, extra cheese and all that, but I'm talking about a quarter pounder where they dominate a quarter of every game, right?
Yeah.
And we said it about they dominated the quarter against Cork. They got 264 points. Second quarter down to 14 men, no Peter Casey. They dominated the quarter against Tip, 111 to a point. Dominated second quarter against Waterford, 11-4, and today their domination quarter was probably second quarter 110 to 5 points. But to go back on what you're saying is who can beat them? For me at the moment, the Waterford are the number 2 team in the country, in my opinion, to try and beat them. And why do I say that? In the All-Ireland semi-final, they put up a good show, but I suppose, as I said, Limerick dominated that second quarter 11-4, and that was it. It was game over, really. But I mean, if you could get, not saying that Billy Nolan had a really for being goals for Waterford, and their other goalie as well. I can't think of his name now, but I just feel that if you got Stephen O'Keefe back, if you got Tyga Burka back, I think the big thing for Waterford is, Nick, is does Liam Cahill stay as their manager? And does Mikey Beavan stay as their coach? I feel at the moment they are the number 2 team to try and challenge Limerick. And you know, whether there's big changes in Galway, whether they keep their management team or some of their older statesmen, and we know Joe is gone, whether others will go, it's hard to know. Whatever's going to happen in Tip, who's going to come and take over. But like, if right now, if everything stayed as is, Waterford for me are the team to try and challenge them and try and beat them. Getting Ty de Burka back and maybe getting Stephen O'Keefe back onto the panel as well, and you know, another year's experience with Liam Cahill and Beavens. But as I said, that's central to the current management for Waterford staying on. If they don't, it's you know, who knows what happens? But yeah, what do you do? I suppose everyone's talking about splitting Dublin in 2. Like, do you split Limerick in 2? I don't know. East and West Limerick, you know, they play a lot of football back at West Limerick, but like, what do you do really? They're, as I said, they're a brilliant team. They're very close off the field as well, Mick, which a lot of people mightn't realise. They're very, very good friends, and you know, there was a little bit of off the field stuff that happened a couple of years ago. John Kiely managed it brilliantly, and it was all dealt with very, very quickly. Not much fuss about it, not too much in the media about it. Yeah, we got a couple of WhatsApp videos going around about this, that, and the other going on. Kiely dealt with it brilliantly. You know, had a good word with a few of the lads involved. Maybe got rid of a couple of lads that he felt, you know, weren't going to buy into the culture. And what he has now, he has a great group, and you know, you only hear good things about him, really. You know, you don't hear too many bad stories about these Limerick lads. You know, so I think that's a testament to Kiely and the culture he's created with them. Like,
yeah, it's funny. I was only reading about the not the more recent thing, but maybe the strike and the Donald O'Grady leaving and everything like that a few years after. A couple of days ago, and you think how recent in a way that is, you know, and you think like Nicky Quaid came into the Limerick team on the back of the players refusing to play for Justin McCarthy that time. You know, that's how recent it is. You know what I mean? I know he's the goalkeeper, but when you think of like the culture that they've created now and that winning culture, and you know, I was saying on Twitter during the week that like this, I think we've underplayed the stroke of genius that was moving Kyle Hayes to wing back, and people said, why are you taking out such a good centre forward? And you know, and how much it opened up in that team, like how many doors it opened, and it was the final piece of the puzzle. But people were saying, sure, that wasn't John Kiely, that was Kinnerk, etc., etc. I wonder, do we give Kiely in general even enough credit for how good a manager is? Because even if Kinnerk's doing all the coaching and the game planning and stuff like that, the culture within this group reflects their manager. And this is, as you say, such a together group, such a problem-free group, and obviously such a high-achieving group.
Yeah, but that's who John Kiely is. Like, he's a people's person. He's a man manager. He's in his everyday job in being principal of the Abbey down in Tiptown. People just say that about him as well. Like, they love going into the school there, or they love the culture in the school because of John Kiely. And he'd have pupils there from Limerick and Tip. You know what I mean? And they're all come together. There's a fantastic culture in the school. You know, I know people that teach there. And he's fantastic. He's a great guy to work with, and that carries through into the way he manages these Limerick lads. But at the end of the day, Mick, I suppose we've all been in work or in life, and if the group you're involved with don't respect you first and foremost, you could say what you want to them, but they won't do it. And the respect that this group have for John Kiely is phenomenal. Like, if John Kiely said, you know what, lads, we'll do a light training session in the morning at 7 o'clock, I'd say they'd all be there at 7:15, no bother at all, no questions asked. And you know, I think that's just the way he is. And I think, as I said, the way he dealt with those things, which, you know, could break another panel, dealt with them very, very well. And there wasn't much about it. The way these players conduct themselves off the field, I think, is a reflection of the respect they have for John Kiely as well, because they don't want to let themselves down, they want to let their families down, but you know what, they don't want to let John Kiely down. And maybe that's the teacher thing in him as well, you know, that he's able to manage people so well, and you know, he treats them all with the respect that they deserve, and they have nothing but respect for John Kiely. And that's very evident from the way that each and every one of them kind of just embraced him here after the game. You know, you see some teams, and you know, there might be much love between the manager and the players. Might be just a little fist pump or a handshake. Every one of them straight up to John Kiely, big hug, thanking him and him thanking them. And that's what it's all about. But I think it's a sign of a great manager, isn't it, that most of the talk maybe is about Paul Kinnerk, and rightly so, the way he sets him up tactically. But at the end of the day, if a hard call has to be made to a player or something, it is John Kiely is going to make it, and he is brilliant at doing it. Like.
Absolutely, yeah. Comment on William O'Donoghue there earlier, saying that William O'Donoghue, the ultimate warrior, which might be a good way of putting it. But I wanted to talk a little bit about Declan Hannon, who's someone that we probably haven't mentioned too much. You know, obviously, in he played very well today, I thought, but in terms of on-field leadership as well, then there's a lot of it all over the field. O'Donoghue and Lynch probably, exemplifying it as well. But I was even thinking just when he was doing the speech afterwards, and the first captain since Christy Ring to lift the Liam McCarthy 3 times and stuff like that. There's a reason. I remember being at the All-Ireland semi-final in 2013 when he's the star young guy coming through for Limerick as a centre forward. And he had a terrible day on freeze that day. And people don't really remember that game. They think Clare won it handily. But Limerick actually had their chances. And it was just, I always just remember that day of it, like the occasion possibly got to him, or maybe he just had an off day. I don't know. But when you think of how he's reinvented himself, people forget that Declan Hannon was a superstar forward in the team that didn't have too many of them. And now he is leader extraordinaire, centre back, holding the centre, and pops up with 2 or 3 points as well whenever he feels like it.
Yeah, and you think about it, Mick, like you think about the leaders, that the caliber of leader that they have in the group. Like you don't constantly get the vote of the management or the players to be captain year in, year out, unless you are a leader, and unless you're doing it maybe in your actions and the way he speaks. Like today, I thought he was phenomenal today. I thought it was his best game of the year. Amount of ball he got on, the way he controlled it, I suppose, the way the guys around him work, that's fair enough. And he's allowed maybe read that game over and back. But at the end of the day, if you're not able to read the game or be where the ball is, I mean, speed of brain and speed of thought is often better than actual speed in the feet. Like he has that. Like he's thinking 2-3 steps ahead. The quality ball he gives in, he's popped up with 2 points for play, similar to what he did in 18 as well, driving up the field. And I thought he played with a real confidence today. I thought he was a superb leader for him. But I suppose he's had, we talked about guys stepping away from the game who've had pressure from a young age, like Canning and Brendan Maher. Like Hannon has had that too, like since he's 16, 17. I think Adair played a Munster Club semi-final or Munster Club final. I think he was maybe 16, 17.
He was 15 apparently. It was a week before his 16th birthday. They mentioned it on the TV today.
Did he score 113 out of 114 or something?
Oh, maybe that was a different. I'm not sure, but it was something.
I was talking about it last night with the guys from home, and I think it might have been a Munster Club semi-final, and he got 114, and he scored 113. 8 or 9 frees, but he scored 1-4 from play at a very young age. So he's had that, and up the field as a forward. But like as you said already, look at all the quality hurlers that they've had, that they've transformed. Like Kyle Hayes scored 3 points from play in the man of the match performance in 2018. Now he's back wing back. Declan Hannon is doing what he's doing in the forward. Like a lot of people mightn't realise, Barry Nash played most of his life in the forwards, like in minor and under 21 level, and was, I think, got man of the match in the 21 final one year as playing up in the forwards for Limerick. Like so these guys are just comfortable playing wherever. Why is that? Because they trust the system, they trust the way they play, and they trust the players around them, that when they get the ball, they'll do the right thing with the ball. And I suppose the funny thing is, I talk about it as well, like they're playing at such a high level now. It'll be interesting to see in the next few weeks, in the club level, you're playing with guys that just haven't the same hurling brains as the guys like here, like a Cian Lynch, who sees things 3 or 4 moves ahead. That you'll be with the club lad, and you might give an old flick hand pass back to him, and he's looking around going, "Where did that come from? I wasn't expecting that." But that's, I suppose, that's another level with the club. But I think for today, and Hannon in particular, the way he speaks, the way he conducts himself, the way he carries himself, I've never heard a bad story about Declan Hannon. Never will. And another great speech out of him today. He's, as you said, emulated Christy Ring. I mean, what a thing to say that you and Christy Ring are the two guys. Cluxton has done it in football, and Declan Hannon, I suppose, is the modern day equivalent in hurling terms, really, isn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. Before we go down, just a couple of things, more kind of general points. But on Cork today, I think it would be unfair to kind of dismiss them. They've actually had an unbelievable year. When you think the 220 titles, the unbelievable minor team that we saw last night, that I worked out, and I know they beat Clare by 40 points, which sways it somewhat, but they won their 4 games by an average of 25 points, which is absolutely insane. Like, no less than 10 points in any game. And obviously that's under 17 level. We've a long time to wait for those guys to come through. But what the senior team showed as well, a lot of positives. But it's so hard to pick yourself up from a result like that, because it's not just making it to the All-Ireland final, giving a good account of yourself, but look, we're not quite at Limerick's level yet. It was a hammering, And I suppose there'll be a fear from people driving home tonight that maybe that'll set them back, and all the good will and excitement of the last couple of weeks will be is it lost,
Yeah, and even talking to lads here today, I think a massive plus for them of the COVID thing is there's no homecoming. There really won't be. Like there's no banquet tonight, because I've I've been at banquets after losing finals, and they're the most horrible place to be, because you have to sit down, and you have to go through the formalities, have the dinner and listen to a few speeches, and you just want to be anywhere else, like in the world. You just want to go to your own place, and it'll be a hard one from to take. They're relatively young, I suppose Hoggy's the oldest. I think he's 33. I'm fairly sure he surpassed Tony Kiely today, Mick, in becoming the top scorer in the championship this year, which would be the first time I think he's done it. I think he finished second in the top scorer on three different occasions.
Wow.
But he's top scorer. Look, it's of little relevance to him personally, but I think he's one of the greats. But I suppose a lot of hurling people, most hurling people, bar Limerick people, wanted him to get that Celtic cross to go with the greatness that he's done for Cork, and I do feel he'll stay on. The management will more than likely stay on. The under 20s, the interesting thing about the under 20s the other night, I think there's 11 or 12 of them still underage next year, so that's frightening for the rest of us. So look, the rebel treble didn't happen, as regards the minor, under 20s and the senior, but look, they're going the right way. Like, is it guaranteed to be back next year? It's not, like, and I suppose that's the killing thing for the likes of maybe Shamie Harnedy and Horgan, who were involved this year and 2013, that you think this might happen year in, year out, but when you're here, you just have to take your chance. And who knows next year, with everything that's going to change, with the new managements that are going to come in around the country, and the new systems the player are going to say, look, and the round robin. Hopefully we get the round robin back. I think it's really good. You get exciting games. So yeah, it's just, as the man says, it's like the deaf dog. Yeah, it's a hard one to call what's going to happen next year, but it's looking ominous, isn't it, really, for the rest of us with the way Limerick are going, like.
Yeah, and look, it was a quick championship overall. Like, it always felt to me anyway, like that we were all kind of having a separate championship almost to see who could compete with Limerick or who can finish second to them in a way. You don't think it in the individual games, but in an overall sense. But like, it was an interesting year. I think there was some worry a little bit maybe towards the end of last year and maybe even through the league, that hurling was gone a little bit off, or a little bit kind of robotic or something. But I feel like we had a good championship, even when one team is so far ahead of everybody else. We talked about it every Monday here for the last 2 months. It was all played very quick fire. Maybe we didn't get to relish it in the way that we would normally, with a bit of time between games or a bit of space. But we had some cracking matches.
Yeah, we did, Mick, yeah. Absolutely, I agree with you. I suppose people get lost in the final, and they judge the year on the final, and you can't do that, because if we go back through them, I mean, Cork and Clare in the Gaelic grounds that night, absolutely brilliant game. Where Tony Kiely had the chance. The Leinster game between Wexford and Kilkenny, where Hawkeye comes into it, and because of it, Kilkenny are still in the championship. Even the last day with Cork and Kilkenny and Mullen's goal. Like, we've had some crackers of games. I was above at Antrim and Laois, like, in Parnell Park. That was unbelievable game of hurling. So we've had some fantastic games, and I hope people don't judge the whole year based on the All-Ireland final. Did the best team in the country win the All-Ireland final? They did. Did they save their best performance for last? They probably did as well. Regardless of who they're playing, you can only beat what's put up against you. Limerick were phenomenal, 328 from play, as we said. The way they use the ball, the comfort that they have, it's like a second home from here, Croke Park, at the moment. And I think we've had a very good hurling championship, as you said, Mick, rightly so. I hope the round robin is back next year. I hope we have full houses next year, and we look forward to all those things. But there was a real feel of normality here today, or getting back towards normality here today, with the parade, the band, President Higgins being here, and even Jones's Road beforehand. I mean, look, Mick, I parked the car outside the door nearly of Croke Park last year, outside Croke Park Hotel. This year was different. There was thousands of people on Jones's Road, and I think that's one of the positives as a society. We're getting back to normality. Hurling is not in a bad place. We don't need to change it too much. Obviously, we'll talk about a lot of things, about hand passes and about cynical fouling over the winter, and with the club championships to look forward to. But look, we're in a good place. Limerick are a phenomenal team. We'll all try and beat them again next year, and please God, everything will go back to normal as well.
Absolutely, yeah. And look, we can't wait for it all to start again, and it is starting again in a way next week after, when we start getting into the club championships. We start seeing some games on TV and stuff. But Shane, congratulations to Limerick. Obviously, 3 and 4 years. There's some team to beat. They dominated this year. Thanks a million to you, Shane, as well, because we've had a great summer chatting about the games here, mainly on a Monday. We decided to get it done while you were still in Croke Park today, get some immediate reaction out. But thanks a million for being a brilliant guest with us all year.
Thanks a million, Mick. Really enjoyed it there with yourself, Shane, and all the guys in balls.ie. And sure, look, hopefully we'll be talking to each other soon again about all things hurling related.
Exactly, yeah. We still have lots to talk about. Thanks again, Shane. Thanks a million as well for everybody for watching and listening all the way through the year. Now, we're not finished yet or anything like it, because we've still got an All-Ireland football semi-final and final to play. It's been pushed back enough this stage, but we'll have Darren O'Sullivan plenty more before the end of the year. And as well, sure, we might stick in with a little bit of club stuff with Shane as well, and some lots more to talk to as well on GAA Embedded. But thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the Hurling Championship and the Hurling Championship coverage here. Don't forget, if you are watching on YouTube and you enjoy what you're seeing, please do subscribe to the channel. If you're listening on the podcast, please also subscribe, leave us a rating and maybe a comment too. It really helps with everything that we do. But we will be back with you very, very shortly for some football talk. But that's the end of the hurling season. Congratulations to Limerick.